Welcome, friends, foes, to Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast. We are on episode 30, otherwise known as Season 2, Episode 5, Historia. Let me tell you, this one's going to be epic. But first, I have to sip my water because I just cheers and it's bad luck.
Thank you.
If I don't.
Appreciate it.
Delicious. Okay, well, let's do a quick recap of the episode. This one begins in a deep, snowy, wooded area. It's not Narnia. This is somewhere in humanity's reign, somewhere inside the walls.
I would think it'd be the most northmost.
What if they're on the southern continent, though? What if it's the other? What if they gotta go south? Yeah, that'd be weird.
Math.
Anyway, so this episode starts out in a snowy, wooded area. It's a bit of a flashback to the cadets. They're doing some winter training. We actually find out from one of the slides, one of the little informational things in between, that Titans are a little less capable. They feed off of sunlight, essentially. They're more active in the sun anyway. And so the winter kind of gives them cover. So that's why they're out there training. And the scouts are arriving back to this cabin to complete this training. They're all talking about how cold it was and how difficult and dangerous it was. And Ymir, Christa, and a guy named Daz are all still out there in the woods. So we catch up with them. We find out Christa is dragging Daz around because he's incapacitated. And we find out that they are probably not going to make it to the bottom of this mountain, at least not at the pace they're going. They're not going to make it alive. So Ymir and Christa have this discussion. Christa basically find out that she's not who she says she is. She's going by a fake name, and she is an illegitimate child of some kind from some high-up kind of elite family. It sounds like a royal family, probably. And Ymir basically says, listen, you've never even asked me for help. Like, you want to die like a hero. You just want to die, but that's not, there's more to it than that. So what we see happen is Ymir basically saves all of them by pushing Christa down a hill and saying, this is our only option, and pretending like she's going to throw Daz off the cliff. And she actually uses her, now as we've now discovered, her Titan transforming ability to both save Daz and herself. And then Christa at this point is able to go down the mountain and also make it there safely. And yeah, so anyway, they all are saved. In the process, we find out the promise that Ymir made Christa make to her, and then we flash forward to the current moment where we see Ymir in Titan form basically fighting off a bunch of Titans for the sake of the unarmed scouts that are at the top of the tower where we left them last time. So the fight goes on for a while. Ymir almost gets overwhelmed. She uses some stones and bricks from the tower itself to fend off the Titans, and eventually the tower collapses. And after the collapse, not all the Titans are dead, so they come up, they rise up and start to kill Ymir. And just when it looks like all hope is lost, Mikasa does what she tends to do, comes in, saves the day. The scouts all arrive. Actually, all the scouts that we left, let's see, probably 3 episodes ago now, who were leaving for Utgard Castle, have just showed up just in time, just in the nick of time to save Ymir and save everybody. Actually, so the end of the episode, we find out Christa's real name is Historia, and then that's it, to be continued. So there's definitely some spoilerage happening in here. In fact, there's one scene where I gasped. I was like, I can't believe they're showing that this early in the series, but we'll get to that in the spoiler section. So if you're a first timer, you don't want to hear about that, we'll give you the warning, of course. But I'm excited to talk about that part actually when we get there in the spoiler section if this is not your first time through. So with that, why don't we just pick up right at the beginning of the episode, which this one kind of breaks from tradition. It doesn't pick up where the last one left off. It just is starts out in the flashback, basically. So, let's see here.
They're in snow. That's how it starts out.
They're in snow. I have some notes written down here that are just garbage. A bad tune is one of them. I'm not sure what autocorrect was trying to pull at me here. I literally don't even know what that note was.
It is a bad tune, isn't it? Let's think about that, true. I have a note. Here we see some scouts, and they've got their scarves up over their nose, and some just have their scarves over their mouth.
That bothered you deeply.
I just want to let those people know that your mouth and your nose are connected.
Yeah, nose and mouth, everybody.
So if you're trying to cover your respiratory area
to keep it from freezing,
getting things in, or even putting things out, it doesn't help if you got something right here and you don't got it over here. Okay, so stuff goes over your nose if you're trying to cover all that. If you're not trying to do it, then don't even wear one. Mm-hmm. It's not political. So
also just wash your hands. Everybody should wash their hands
and
anyway.
use your
right
signals, please.
Filthy. Yeah.
All right. So anyway.
They're winter training right now. Mm-hmm. We find out they're winter training because we know that Titans don't move as well in the snow. This is a good opportunity for them to get their training, get their durability up, and also possibly be able to fight some Titans even in the cold times. You don't really know how the seasons work.
It's true.
Where they're at right now.
We assume it's winter, but maybe they're up on Mount Everest or something. Like, we don't really know.
Yeah, they've been scouts they've been in the military for 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. So surely seasons have passed.
They've been through several seasons, yeah.
This is a fake world, obviously. We don't know how. I don't even know how the seasons work that well in Japan. Is there?
They got all 4. It's pretty temperate. It's actually not.
They're kind of on the same.
Yeah, they're similar, parallel to us.
Yeah,
but
longitude.
But as far as I know, they have all 4 because Japan's kind of famous for like, the snowy winters on the mountains and sort of whatever that whole deal. And then springtime they have the. What
cherry blossoms, and
then summertime they've kind of got those very beautiful like rolling hills and fields, and then of course in fall Japanese maples. That's famous as well. So
I imagine Isayama's writing from that perspective in this world, and man, it would suck to be in like ankle deep snow and then having to fight Titans at the same time.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
It really, you come to think of it, because when I was watching this, I lived in some very snowy climates and I hate being cold. I really do. They did a really good job of the animation and stuff here, and like the feeling of being in the snow was so good that I was like, I felt it's the middle of summer right now. I felt cold watching it, and it was like,
and he became angry miserable inside.
And it was just your heart.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway. I really did think the same thing. I was like, if there really was some kind of Titan attack or something like that right in this, it would be miserable in the highest degree for me. But they said that basically even just anybody can outrun a Titan in the snow because they don't, and there's not a lot of daylight. They're not very active, which makes
Perhaps
me think
they're
that
exothermic.
It makes me think that the if that's the case, the scouts would be smart to just do all of their missions during the winter to like Beyond the Walls.
Did I just figure something out? I was just thinking about that. Like, if they're cold-blooded, exothermic, then they would be more active during the day and not as much at night because it's cooler in the night. In the winter, like they would be even slower. Yeah.
I don't know if it's about temperature. That's about sunlight.
Yeah.
But there's less sunlight in the shorter days.
Think about the Titans in the walls.
Yeah.
They're in there during any.
That's true. If it was heat, if it was heat, then they would get. Never mind.
The two things that are. When you think about it, okay, they're lifeless. They have like no personality. They like bring down all of society, and they're powered by the sun. Mm-hmm. Titans and Superman.
Oh, Superman is from Attack on Titan. Who knew? Okay, so
anyway.
Basically, the episode starts out with so the whole gang is finishing this mission, and they all get there and are like, hey, gosh, this was really difficult. So glad we're home, so on and so forth. And then I can't remember who. I think it's Reiner is the first one to say, "Where's Christa?" Which figures. He has a little crush.
He's trying to find his wife.
Yes, they get welcomed. Like they're like, "You made better time than we thought in these conditions." So there's obviously some kind of storm going on. And then Reiner comes up and says, "Is Christa with you guys?" And they're like, "No." And then he says Christa's missing.
Yeah. Then somebody mentions, okay, well, I think Daz wasn't doing so well, so she went to stay with him or try to help him down. And then somebody else notes,
Reiner says Daz is missing too, and then
Daz is missing, and then also Ymir.
Yeah,
there's 3 of them now.
So 3 of them are missing, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna go back out there, but they're
Commander lady person
basically says, hey, no one's going back out there. The conditions are horrible. Like, I'm not going to have any more victims tonight. So that's not happening. So they're all kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. And then that's when we cut over to, what's actually happening out there in the woods. And we see Christa, and she's dragging what looks like a dead body. Apparently he's not dead yet.
He's all wrapped up.
It's like a tauntaun. He's all wrapped up.
He does survive.
He's like on some sort of like makeshift
stretcher or something.
And she's just pulling him. And then while Christa, incredibly short,
she's the tiniest one of them all,
is trudging
even
through
smaller than Armin,
like shin deep snow, carrying a man who's bigger than her, through the
She's
snow.
She's tiny too. I don't even know how this works.
What's the one thing you'd want, next to you during this really hard physical task that's taking everything you have?
A supportive friend to pull with you?
Or someone just to be constantly condoning you, or not condoning, sorry, constantly condemning you and like bringing
criticizing
you down.
Everything you're doing.
Well, you're such an idiot.
Questioning your motives and all the above.
The one worst thing is like somebody trying to sell you like an MLM or like a CrossFit guy or like a vegan next to you, like trying to tell you about that while you're carrying. And please, dude, I'll kill myself. Just leave me alone, okay? Yeah. So, Christa's trying to drag Daz save his life through the wind or through the snow. Ymir's like,
wind too.
Ymir's like, you kind of be an idiot right now because Daz shouldn't have taken this mission because he didn't know how much his body could handle, and he's just trying to get extra credit. Basically,
this is all his own fault. He should have known what his body could take.
Yeah,
he deserves
to just die. Yeah, and like,
what the crap?
I'm a big believer in like actions and consequences. People should, be responsible for their actions, but I'm also a believer in like people make mistakes, and you should probably not let them die for their mistakes if you can, especially if you're friends and your comrades and you're like a decent person. So, Chris is doing the thing that I think all of us would try to do: help their friend. And the thing that I am interested in this part is Ymir tells Christa there's basically only two things that are going to happen. There's two scenarios that could come from this. Mm-hmm. Scenario one is we leave Daz here. We go on because we're capable. We get back to the home base and we make it out alive. And Daz probably freezes up here tonight. Maybe we find him tomorrow.
Poor dude.
Or scenario two is we keep going like we're going and all of us die because of your stupidity. So which one is it? And the thing I think is really interesting about this is also, I believe, how lots of people in the world like to frame things. Mm-hmm. In their perspective, with their little view. And to them, there's really only these two things.
Right.
You're either an idiot or you're, whatever. And which one is it going to be? And the thing that Christa says that I actually really like is like, not everything is fit into your small little worldview. Not everything is just A or B. Sometimes there's an option C. Sometimes there's things that you don't know about. Sometimes there's other things that could happen. And sure enough, other things do end up happening.
Possible. Yeah.
But what Christa says, or, something maybe you didn't think of, is we all get there safe. We're able to make it. Did you ever think about that? And Ymir's trying to be realistic. Christa's being optimistic. But at the same time, she's not quick to just leave her friend, which is
Ymir
honorable.
Isn't just trying to be she's being super manipulative and controlling. Yeah. This is going to sound awful after just saying this, but I do this with the children all the time. When they're being turd blossoms and doing the wrong thing, and I want them to learn what the right choice is, I will say, well, you can stop hitting him with that, or you can take a break. It's up to you. And I'm obviously giving them the choice to stop hitting and keep playing with their friend, or get everything taken away from them and take a break, because I want them to make the right choice. And in my case, I don't have nefarious, intentions.
Yeah.
Ymir is incredibly selfish, and she doesn't care about Daz, and she doesn't really care about Christa either. She just wants what she wants.
Well, it does seem
so she's giving her a one choice or another, and they both kind of suck, but she's making one suck way more than the other one.
It does seem to me that she does care for Christa to some degree.
Yeah.
Because otherwise she wouldn't be out there with her. She would have just left her.
True.
So there's some reason why she's still there.
So this is probably a good point in the episode to bring up an email. So first of all, if you have thoughts on any of this stuff, feel free to email us, long or short. We got a longer email that I really enjoyed. So Nathaniel S., thank you for emailing us, by the way.
Thanks, man.
He sent us a message talking about this exact subject about Ymir and kind of her, in the hole. So without getting into too much spoiler, because we get a little more of Ymir throughout this season, without getting too far into that, he makes some comments in here that I think are correct. And my kind of prognosis of Ymir generally is I don't really like her. I see the fact that she's not just a bad person. She's not just a bad guy. She's not just a simple villain.
Sure.
That has this traumatic past and she kind of has all this other stuff.
She's a multifaceted character.
But I've pretty much just said I don't like her because I just don't like the way she treats Christa. I don't like the way she treats anybody. And anyway, in this email, he makes a point that I feel like is worth talking about and something we haven't expounded on. But it should be maybe not obvious. This is a nuanced point, but this is something you definitely can gather from this episode and kind of all the episodes of Ymir so far. You can gather that, number one, like I said, traumatic past. Okay, so there's that. And in this episode, we found out she was actually a beggar, you know. She was literally, like, impoverished. And then she ends up in the military. So she has this, like, intense backstory. Let's leave it at that for now. I don't want to say too much more. So she has intense backstory, and scarred person, right? She kind of is very guarded, and she has good reason to be. And what we end up with is all these scenarios where we see her doing what like a hurt person would do, where she's kind of like hostile, and she's like in this situation, like you're saying, like her approach is always just so it feels so non-empathetic, and it feels and she says things that are so off-putting.
Best for you.
Exactly.
I know what's better for you than what you know.
But the truth is that she can read people pretty darn well. This is one of the things I'm like, she's like a borderline sociopath. She can read people really well. She does know what people are feeling. But she lacks that kind of empathy chip to be able to, in a gentle way, like, address those feelings. Mm-hmm. She can see what's going on in Sasha, right? She's like, oh, you're just afraid of your accent. She actually reminds me of a teacher I used to have who had this, like, same kind of bad habit, which was he had this strange ability within moments of meeting anybody to, like, kind of chide you a little bit and, like, make jokes on him. But, like, he would happen to make the joke about the one thing you're, like, the most insecure about. He's like, I don't do it on purpose. I've just been this way my whole life. So I feel like Ymir has that same kind of, like, instinct. She can really read people well. And Nathaniel actually mentioned that in the email. And basically says, you know, what we're looking at is a broken person acting like broken people do. And here's the thing is...
Yeah, that's true.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's
I think we are talking about somebody who's had a rough life, a broken person who's acting the way broken people do, but who, deep down in there somewhere... Like I said, we know she does care for Christa. Mm-hmm. She cares for Daz. She literally saves his life. You know, we'll find out more about a little bit of her. She makes some comments about, you know, being a savior in this episode. We'll find out more about that later in this season. But all I'm saying is that Ymir is a genuinely complicated character, and as much as I like I said, I don't like the things she does. I don't like the way she does it. I can at least say I understand her a little bit, and when you think about it in a scenario like this one, or even what she was saying to Sasha, as rude as she was like, be your own person, don't like... In
her aggressive, overbearing way, she is kind of sort of trying to help, maybe.
She's trying to say something true. Like, she's trying to be like, hey, like, don't let the world, you know, define you, like, do your own thing. And she's trying, and here's the thing is, she's actually trying to say the same thing to Christa here in the woods, in this conversation as it unfolds. She's trying to tell her, hey, like, you know, be your own person. You don't have to be a fake. You don't have to go by a fake name. You know, we'll get into that in a second. But anyway, like I said, I just want to say, Nathaniel, thank you for the email. I hear you. I agree with, you know, we've read it. I think you're making some very fine points here, and I would like to give a little more fair shake to Ymir as these episodes unfold. So this is as good a time as any, I suppose. Yeah. So this conversation they get into first is probably one of the most interesting parts. So they go through the three scenarios.
Yeah, and Ymir's touches again on the same thing she touched on last episode, where she's saying that Christa's like trying to throw her life away.
Yeah, intentionally.
And she says...
She's doing something good, but...
I think you've already resigned yourself to death already. I think you hope you die out here, trying to do something heroic. I don't think you want to save Daz. You got to at least make it look like you tried saving him. Right now, you're just dragging him down with you. It's like, what in the world? Like, it's pretty awkward when you're watching this, like, what's happening, especially like Christa's like such, she seems so like innocent and so like kind and pure, and Ymir's like attributing this like terrible motive on her. And
well, at least if it's not terrible, it's at least ulterior. It's at least a less than obvious, like, noble kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So
she kind of she goes into that whole rant. The first thing she says is, "Why haven't you asked for help?"
Yeah,
and then that makes Christa freeze, and her eyes get really big, and she seems like paralyzed for a moment, and then Ymir goes into all of that other stuff.
I wouldn't necessarily have asked for help either if the person that I'm walking with isn't smart enough to be like, wow, maybe I should help you save the life of a comrade. Maybe I don't want that person's help and I want them to go die. Maybe, I don't know, like, it's kind of...
Christa does seem to have a poor habit, though, of not ever asking for help.
And not regarding
and
her
I don't
life
know if it's
high.
because she's small and I don't know if that's a factor. I know I have that problem. I'm a shorter person, and
so much you can do sometimes.
Lately, in the last few years, I've had to just get over it. But for a long time, I would not ask for help, and I would suffer in silence because I was like, I can do this, dang it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people relate to that. I know I do. The number of times in my life where I'm like, I'm just independent, I'm just like, no, like I got this, or like, it's not even that I'm like afraid of appearing weak or something like that. It's that I don't want to be like a burden, basically. I don't want other people to feel like they have to take care of me.
That Armin was struggling
right,
with, and
right.
he's smaller, he's not quite as athletic as some of these other guys. Same thing with Christa. It's like, but she's got like a double. Like Armin at least is like smart enough to like want to like protect his life.
Yeah.
She's like willing to throw her life away, and she won't ask for help. And it's like, that's really dangerous.
It is interesting. So now that we're talking about Christa, talk about a complex character, because so what Ymir's doing here, and I think this is intentional, and I don't always love the way they do this in anime, but this is certainly it, is that they kind of dance around, like they never just like say straight up what's going on. You have to get all the inferences and then you can conclude what's going on. So the inferences here, what they're actually saying is that Christa, despite looking like happy and heroic and so on the outside, she actually kind of hates herself and wishes her life was over, because she too has a past that she regrets, and a lot of it's not her fault. And we'll find out the same is true of Ymir. She has a past, and a lot of like what's the wounds and stuff there are not her own fault. And so they actually share this kind of despairing of life sort of attitude, but Ymir has taken a different tack on it. And again, like you're saying, her approach is horrible, but at the end of the day, she's actually kind of right. She's like, listen, you basically have this weird savior complex, but in your mind, you're like, it's not even a savior complex. It's I do want to do the right thing, but I also wish I wasn't alive. Like I regret the day that I was born. I kind of hate myself.
Yeah, so she'd rather die trying to do something noble than actually just try to live.
Than live on doing something noble and live in the pain, because she's it's not too uncommon. It's not all that uncommon. I certainly met I can think of a girl, actually. I think we did go to high school with her, who was similar, where it's like on the outside, it's confidence and it's let's do the right thing and it's happy and joy and like loving other people and so on and so forth. But on the inside, it's pain and sorrow. And that's a real state that people live in. And that is the inference. That's what this conversation is basically trying to reveal to us about Christa, which is weird. It's a weird role reversal, because if once you get to the heart of the matter, Ymir is the one who's saying, no, like you have something to live for. Like promise me, like you won't live in this pain forever, but that you'll actually like go on and live a life that you're proud of, no matter what. And Ymir's right about that. Like she is a jerk, and she's also correct about.
Sometimes jerks are correct.
Yeah, I think Nathaniel's right. Like it's a broken person's attempt at trying to like get to the heart of a matter. It's just the worst way possible of doing it. Like you're like my daughter could probably have this conversation better than she does, but it does end up bringing out some things to the surface. And I'm guessing it's the things that Ymir's been trying to get out of Christa this whole time, because the reason she's been hanging on Christa, we find out, is because Christa is the daughter of a mistress of somebody high up.
Royal or something like that, because they talk about a throne here. They talk about giving up a throne.
Yeah, Ymir says that when she was borrowing things from people on the interior.
So she was a dirty thief.
She's a filthy thief.
She was a poor beggar. I mean, she's stealing, yes, but she's stealing, and it seems pretty clear to me she's like stealing. She said she was doing it to survive, which sounds right.
Did you see her begging? I didn't see her begging.
She was a begging. I'm saying she's stealing to survive.
If you're gonna steal from the wall cult, good job, Ymir. Like I'm actually okay with that.
My enemy is my friend. Yeah, so she's in the inner church stealing from the wall cult people, and she overhears a conversation.
And we see our friend, Pastor Nick.
Is it Nick?
I think so.
I don't know. They all look the same to me.
There's two dudes, and I'm pretty sure one of them is
They're wearing the same
Nick.
outfits,
I'm
sure.
almost 100% sure, but maybe I'm wrong.
But
nonetheless,
she says the story is that illegitimate
people,
illegitimate children can't be heirs to the throne. And it was such a sad story, they wanted to kill her and end all the fuss. So basically, Historia was born out of wedlock to somebody royal or something. And because she's a bastard child, they weren't married when that happened. Instead of just allowing her to live or whatever, They just want to kill her because they don't want to make a big fuss about.
Yeah, it's a scandal.
It's
it's
terrible.
scandalous. It's a scandal
How
because
very human.
Yeah,
too.
right. It's a scandal because of the sexual escapade part of it, but it's a scandal because here you have this child kind of being raised in the household, and she's not technically the heir. She shouldn't be the heir to
Yet
whatever.
she has the royal blood.
Which is terrible because it's so frustrating when people's actions affect other people, especially children other than themselves.
Yeah.
It's so
It
frustrating.
does freaking suck.
So they say, well, look, instead of killing her, I guess there's one thing that we could do. If she renounces her name and her claim to the title and just lives a humble life, maybe we'll leave her alone.
Mm-hmm.
So we find out that her name was Historia, and she changed it to Christa, and it was even just forced to join the military, just to live a humble life, taken away from whatever she was living in, and she has to live this double life now.
Yeah, my theory about sending her, which you kind of said the same thing, Rach, earlier, is that there's at least potential that they were like, okay, we'll send her into the military, and then she might just die on her own anyway, right?
Yeah. She pulls out
Look at
King
her.
David.
She's a tiny little fluffy marshmallow with giant blue eyes. Like, if Armin has the constitution of a daffodil, then Historia has the constitution of a marshmallow. Like, she's like sweet and fluffy and soft and yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So she's freaked out.
Basically a death sentence.
Historia's freaked out. She looks at Ymir and is like, oh, you found out. How did you find out? And Ymir's like, that confirms it.
So it is you after all.
And she says, don't worry. I don't plan on telling anyone.
Yeah.
And she says, I think that we're actually similar in a way. And, Historia says, like, similar in, you have a similar past as I do. And she says, more or less, we have similar backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
We both now have a second chance at life. Now, here's where the difference between Historia and Ymir comes. And Ymir is very adamant and a very, what's the term? She's like, she's mad about it. I don't know.
She chides her.
Oh,
yeah,
indignant.
She scolds
she's
her. She's
yes.
indignant, yeah.
Because of the specific thing that Historia chose to take a second name and chose to live this humble life. And Ymir's like, no, I won't renounce my name. One of us renounced our name and lived a humble life, but one of us isn't going to. If I abandon my name and reject who I am, they win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's they?
Who's they?
Yeah.
And what do you mean?
She says, I'm going to keep my name and live a good life. I'll get my revenge. Also brings up the quote that the best revenge is a life well lived.
Yeah.
Yep. So she tells, Historia basically, you're so like adamant to like throw your life away trying to die nobly because you feel like it's all you can do. Why not take that passion and try to change your fate and live a better life?
Yeah. There's a little bit of a Tatake Aaron to Mikasa.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that
vibe
same thing.
Yeah.
Going on
In
here.
her way, Ymir's telling Christa to fight.
Fight, like, because it really
Fight
is
for joy, fight for life. Don't
yeah, fight.
don't just give up.
Fight to live, fight to change your destiny, which is very similar to like what Aaron is telling Mikasa and Small Blade.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's saying like you have to fight because if you don't fight at all, like you're definitely going to lose. That's the inference.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do fight, you might win.
Yeah.
And if you do fight, Christa, you might be able to change your destiny. You think it's not a life worth living, but what if it is? Like, what if you could take that passion and find, like, make it work?
And there's something to be said too about living and dying for a cause and for a purpose and for something bigger than yourself, and even specifically for the truth. If you're fighting and you're dying and you know it's all subterfuge, you know it's all a lie, there's something twisted and broken about that, and you know like you're not in the right. Like my conscience like always tells me like, dude, you need to change. I'm like, oh man. But when I know I'm in the right, when I know I'm doing the right thing, it's like you can't be stopped. And even if you fall, even if you die, even if you lose your life, you know you died doing the right thing, living for the truth, standing up for what you believe in or whatever it is. And those things, not just A, is it like a cool way for your own legacy? It's not just, B, something that for other people to talk about, oh, he at least did what was right. It also inspires others to stand up and live and fight for the same type of ideals and to kind of keep pushing forward. And so the other thing about this specific instance where she says, use that passion to change your fate, it's almost like efficiency. Like you've only got a specific amount of life. You've only got a certain amount of time, certain amount of energy or passion. You're using all of yours to do some stupid thing that's like kind of letting all the rest of them win. Instead of that, let's redirect that passion, that life, that energy, that time towards doing something good and living a good life for yourself. Now, she just kind of wants Christa to break off of the pressure from these people in the interior. But it kind of reminds me of like, we went to school with a lot of guys who would do an awful lot of work to avoid doing any real work.
It is incredible.
It's like
it is incredible sometimes.
You would like come up with this harebrained scheme, or like go to the office and forge a note so you could go give it to this teacher so you could get out of class like a few minutes early. Like, bro, you spent way more time coming up with this scheme and messing around with this thing. If you would have just stayed in class, like you would have just done the work, it would have been way easier for everybody. But instead, it's like some people are so diehard bent on not doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they'll do more work to avoid doing work. It's like if you take all the time like whining and complaining and like protesting or whatever, and actually like put it towards like a career, or like put it towards like learning a trade, or like raising a family, or even just like doing it for a good cause, or like donating to charity, or starting a charity, or something like that. You
could do wonders with that.
You could do so much if you take all that passion, that energy, right?
That you're taking, creativity,
and you just put it towards a positive, method, instead of like tearing something down or breaking something or trying to get out of something. Man, we could change the world like that. So let's make sure our energy is well invested, and that's what Ymir is trying to tell to Historia, right? Don't die and let the people who hate you win.
So then she comes up with this fourth option, because Christa had three.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a fourth option.
Krista's third option was that Ymir abandons her and Daz, and she makes it back to the base on her own.
Sure, which
Ymir's
fat
like,
chance.
You're stupid. You're gonna die.
So Ymir's like, and keeping in mind, of course, that Ymir knows this whole time, like,
Ymir is Ymir.
All right, well, I have the ability to just like take care of this whole thing, and she basically says, okay, well, I have this other idea. Why don't we toss Daz off this cliff here? She like takes her over, and this cliff is like.
It's a cliff.
Okay, so we live in the Northwest.
It's a huge cliff.
We've frequented what's called the Columbia River Gorge, and there's a famous waterfall there, the Multnomah Falls. And Multnomah Falls is, if I'm not mistaken, beautiful. Also near 700 feet tall from kind of like top to bottom. So I can tell you, like, I've looked at that cliff many times. It's like proportionally like how large that looks. Mm-hmm. This cliff is taller than that. I would put this one at, I don't know if quite double, maybe like 60% taller than that. So let's say it was 700. So let's just call it 1,200 feet. That is a long, gigantic.
Well, yeah, they can like see the base, and it looks like this tiny little faraway dot.
Yeah,
and it's like a compound.
They're a long ways up. So she's like, well, what if we just toss Daz off this thing? Now, okay, to give credit to the idea, people have survived avalanches and falling off crazy things many, many times because snow is snow, right? Like, it might not be, you might not feel good when it's all done, but like, you at least live.
But what if you hit a rock?
Any rock on his way down there and he's done. So it kind of sounds, at least at first, it sort of sounds like a.
Chuck him over the cliff, and then we'll climb down, and everything will be fine.
Exactly. At first glance, this sounds like a. Listen, I don't care about this dude. Why don't you and I just get back there? But that's not the plan. So she says we could do that. If he does survive, we'll go down there and we'll find him. We can, get him back to base. Otherwise, we all die. And she, Christa, questions this plan. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know about this, which is something I would also do personally.
The last time I was thinking about throwing somebody off a cliff, I was like kind of tempted, but then I was like, what? Probably should. I'm going to err on the side of not killing my friends.
It's probably a good. That's a wise instinct. To not kill your friends.
Yeah, I would like to go with that one. Mm-hmm. So she explains this idea. Christa questions it, and she's like, "Listen." Ymir responds, "Is like, listen, there's no time." And so she just shoulders her, like straight up, like fireman carry, just like throws her over, like chucks her into a tree down a short hill.
She like throws her down a small hill. She rolls down, hits the tree, and the tree dumps snow on top of her.
And they do this so like artistically. They do it perfectly, where you see Christa rolling down the hill, the snow drops on her, and then you see this light flash. And then when Christa comes to, they're gone.
There's like a small crater in the snow.
Mm-hmm. She's like, they're both gone.
What's that light flashing?
And so the reality is Ymir knows that Christa's capable of making it down this mountain just fine. And she knows that Daz is not. And so she actually has enough compassion to save Christa's life, Daz's life. She goes freaking Titan and makes it down.
She does leave Christa on her own, so hopefully she'd make it back just fine. And she does, but still a little risky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
she seems rather annoyed the entire time too. Like
Ymir's annoyed at life.
It's true. It's true.
She's annoyed at everyone. So basically, the next cut then is like we get back to the.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're back to the lodge here. Back to the ski lodge, the snowboards and so on. And Aaron
Frostbite.
is doing typical Aaron stuff where he's like, "All right, well, I'm just gonna go out there." Mikasa, Armin, like this student, you guys shouldn't come. And they're like, "No,
we're coming, bro. What are you talking about?"
Mikasa's like, "No, I'm coming for that exact reason because it is dangerous and I know you." So, and also bear in mind, like Aaron doesn't know he has Titan powers at this point either. He's a cadet, so he's like, "I'm going out there." And then who is it? Connie or who pops out?
Connie,
next?
Sasha,
Reiner and Bertolt first.
Oh, right.
No,
I thought they were last.
Nope. Reiner and Bertolt come and say, "Hey, we've got extra supplies. We're coming with you."
Okay.
And
That's
like,
right. Like the more eyes for a search party, the better.
Yeah. Yep. And then Connie and Sasha and
Marco.
Yeah. Rip Marco.
Let me tell you how it probably went down. Nobody was gonna go out. And Marco went around and buffed everybody and was like, "Hey, man, let's go save our friend." That's what friends would do.
That's
Everyone
what friends would do.
That's a good idea. I should have
Thanks,
that idea.
Marco.
Yeah.
He's like, "We can do this. You guys can. I know you're capable, you know?"
Yeah, Marco.
Oh, man.
He's like Brad from Wii Bowling. Remember the Wii Bowling game? You'd bowl, and the voice was like, "Great job," and you were like,
His name was Brad.
we just called him Brad. He sounded like a Brad.
Yeah,
Something like that suberban dad.
He's
and
like super encouraging and
at
like
the baseball
supportive.
game who actually like supports his kid. You're like,
when you say Wii Bowling, I can't. It didn't register. You're talking about the Nintendo Wii, like the console, and I was like, bowling for Columbine. Like I was going through like movies in my head. I'm like, have I seen this movie? Okay, we bowl like the game bowling. God, Nintendo.
Marco.
Listen, like the Switch is good, but sometimes they've messed it up.
So anyway, Marco, and then of course Sasha's like, I brought extra rations.
Yeah.
She ate them, but she brought them.
Hot potato.
They're at least around.
All right.
Okay. So they're planning the search party, and then is it Sasha who was like, "Wait, look, I see somebody."
Yeah.
Yeah, they all bust out the door and someone's coming.
And then somebody we see.
They heard a ka-chum.
Yeah, they heard a noise. That's right.
This weird sound that was probably Ymir going back to a normal human.
Or just her transforming in the first place, or landing.
Down,
who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe landing, yeah.
So, all right. So, yeah, they see the torch. They see somebody at a distance, and it turns out, of course, that this is Ymir. So, our next cut is now Christa, and she's making her way back, and she's finally made it to the base. And look who's out there outside, but Ymir. And Christa, of course, is massively confused. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, and Ymir's like, took you long enough. Geez, I've been here forever.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I've been waiting for you. You know, I what'd she say? She's like, I told Reiner or whatever that I would be.
I'd be out here
I'd be
waiting
here
for
when
you.
you got back. Yeah, sorry, Ymir. Some of us don't have Titan powers. We can just pop out whenever we want. I mean, that'd be cool. But I feel like I'd blow it. Like, I wouldn't be a good Titan shifter because I'd be like in traffic and somebody would cut me off. And I just got bust out and grab their car and throw it away and be like,
Hulk smash
you
everybody.
drive 5 miles over the speed limit if you're in the passing lane. Let me tell you, every time.
At least that much.
Oh my gosh.
At least that much, dude.
Okay.
All right, so Christa makes the obvious observations, which is like,
How did you?
You jumped off
looks
a
up
cliff?
to Cliff. Yeah, looks up to Cliff and goes,
And
you
then
didn't have a
sees
rope.
Daz inside, like crying and shivering.
Yeah, she asked about him. He's alive, and Ymir's just chilling. And she's like, that cliff is so high, and like, how did you even get down? How did you make it down here? And instead of like explaining or giving her any like even just like a halfway believable like lie, she doesn't even really make the effort.
I used him as a sled and found a slope.
I just would have loved for her to say like, you know, I was trained in the Alps, whatever their version of the Alps is, and like I know how to rock climb extremely well, and so I climbed down. I don't anything except for just ignoring the question. She's like a politician on.
She just
on a
like
news
puts her hands
thing.
on her shoulders and looks deeply into her eyes, and the sun rises, and she says a bunch of crap at the end. Like,
so what she tells her though
Well, she
is,
says, "What a stupid thing I've done."
yeah, what a stupid things I've done. She goes, well, you know, I trust you, and so you think she's going to tell her right there, but she doesn't. All she says is, when I reveal my secret, promise me
to everyone.
When I reveal my secret to everyone, promise me that you'll take back your old name and that you'll live a life that you're proud of, essentially, right? And the sun rises, and then that's kind of the moment, right?
And
that's kind of it.
Yeah, it cuts back to the castle.
And so the secret is obvious because we know what it is at this point, that she's a Titan shifter. And we get back to the action, back to the current moment with Ymir jumping off the castle Utgard. And we kind of get her little internal dialogue, slow-mo. She's like falling out of the tower and transforming and so on.
She's talking to Christa in her mind.
And she says,
or Historia, I guess.
I felt the same way. I felt the same way that I also wish I hadn't been born. And
I was hated by the world.
I know
for existing.
her existence was hated. Yeah,
hated by the world for just existing. Which again, we can't spoil that. We'll get to just. It will be revealed in time, friends. Not too long from now.
But at least for Christa, it's like she didn't choose to be born to some illegitimate guy. She was just born, and because of the fact that she's alive, people hate her. Man, that sucks.
That's messed up.
And then Ymir says some weird crap too. Again, we'll dig into this later as well. She says, I gave my life to give countless people joy. And basically she's like, I made a promise to myself. I said that if I did have a second chance in this life, that I wouldn't live for everyone else this time, but I would live for myself. It's weird. It's weird.
It's one thing to willingly lay your life down for somebody, which is beautiful. It's another thing to be like forcibly do it. That's called slavery, right? So when it's like, hey, you've been forced to lay your life down for somebody, it's beautiful when you break out your shackles and say, no, I'm not living for you anymore. When you willingly did it and you're like, now I'm going to live for myself, like that sounds like the most selfish opposite of all the themes we've seen in this show so far. But we don't know all the circumstances yet behind Ymir's sentence, so possibly she was forced to, and now she's breaking off, and now she's like a slave made free, and she's gonna live for herself.
Yeah. Now the ironic part is that in this moment, in this literal moment that she's saying that to herself, like I promised myself I would live for myself, she's not doing that. She's actually going down there to fight for the half a dozen or so scouts that are out there unarmed. She's actually going down there. Like this literal moment is her doing something that she doesn't have to do. She's actually living for and fighting for other people while this is going on. Even though she's forced, she's like, I'm going to live for myself. So,
but she's not doing it because anybody told her to, or to make anyone else happy, or for anyone else's motives. She's doing it for her own reasons. And I think that's maybe more what she's meaning.
I think you're right, and it kind of reminds me of. And I think
I'm a fan of that. Yeah. Be responsible for
your
own life.
Do the right thing for your own reasons. Yeah, that's the right thing.
I agree with that.
It reminds me of Iron Giant.
Oh, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah. It's the giant is like this killer machine from aliens sent to destroy, and luckily he gets this dent on his head that stops like his programming from working, and he meets this little kid, and he sees this comic of this bad guy, and this big bad droid. And the kid tells him, like, that's the bad guy, and he kills all these things, and he's like, I don't want to be that bad guy. Who do you want to be? He says, I want to be Superman. Like, I want to be the guy who does the right thing. And in the end, the kid tells him, like, you don't have to be what people have told you that you have to be. You choose who you want to be.
Yeah.
And so here's Ymir. She's obviously free of whatever past she had. She's kind of making her own life now. And it's like, now that you're free, who are you going to choose? What are you going to use that freedom on? Are you going to use that freedom to keep being a selfish jerk, or are you going to use that freedom to save lives, to be a good person, to become something greater than yourself? And here she is showing a little bit of something beautiful.
She is being heroic.
She's choosing to be something
She doesn't
good.
Completely suck.
She's not all bad. Not all the time.
She's got a sharp tongue. She's rude, but...
Now, right when she gets turned into a Titan, we see the reaction of everybody because, hey, remember when your best friend or your friend you've known for cadets just turns into a Titan and you're like, how many Titans are there?
How many times is this going to happen in the 104th?
Can this happen to me? Like, is this something you stub your toe like, oh, now I'm a Titan shifter. Dang it, like.
Connie's reaction basically is perfect. He goes, is this real? Am I dreaming right now?
So they're like, what? She's a Titan shifter?
You too?
And
it can't be.
And for Connie, he goes, man, this is crazy because when Aaron was a Titan shifter, he didn't even know he was one until he became one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Ymir's known this whole time.
It seems
has
like
she
it.
known? Yeah.
Well, yeah,
he's
known?
asking.
He's asking
Obviously,
Christa, like,
she
did
knew
you
something
know?
because she jumped off and slid her hand, knowing she had some ability built into her.
Yeah, she obviously knew.
Like, what if they took that the wrong way? Like, hey, anybody can do it. And like Connie jumps. Ah! No.
Dies with a bloody hand.
You can fly, kids. No, you can't really fly. Yeah. So we see
so much happens in the next few moments. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, we see Reiner and Bertolt, and they've got this friggin' wide-eyed look.
They are freaked out of their minds.
They go to the flashback when Reiner was a kid. Someone shoved him out of the way, protected him, and got eaten by a Titan.
That looked just like Ymir's Titan.
Just like Ymir's Titan.
Yeah, so Bertolt says
they say
that's
the one from that day.
The one from that day, yeah. And then Reiner kind of spaces out.
Yeah.
And Christa starts to fall off the side of the tower, and he grabs her leg.
One-armed
while
Reiner
he's spacing out.
Being more used to the team than friggin' half of the people standing around watching Christa about to die.
And she's like, thanks, Reiner. And then he starts interrogating her in his slightly spaced out state of mind.
This is PTSD. One-armed Reiner.
Shaking.
Still more used.
And he's like, did you know, Christa? Did you know who she is? And then Connie's like, hey, dude, come on. She's like screaming in pain.
Kind of snaps him out of it. But then it begs the question, if Ymir knew the whole time, could she be an enemy of humanity?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the question.
Whose
Christa
side is
asked
she
that.
on?
Is she an enemy of humanity? And Connie's like,
is it Bertolt that says what is her, what does he say?
I wonder what her goal was.
Yeah.
I wonder. And then Connie's like, all I can say is it's a hell of a power to hide.
Yeah.
Which really does, I mean, it is interesting to be like, okay, like, you can at least kind of understand it, because when Eren transforms, it's like, kill him is like the first reaction.
Wants to murder him.
So you can at least kind of understand why Ymir, if she's had this power for some length of time, why she would be, a little hesitant to just like use it on, off the cuff or whatever.
But, remember when all your friends were dying in Trost?
Mm-hmm.
Remember in Shigashina when the Titans came for the first time? Yeah. That'd have been maybe opportune times to, I don't know, use some amazing built-in power you have to stop massive amounts of hundreds of thousands of people being fed and slaughtered to Titans. But I don't know. Yeah, this is a good time too. Save 6 people. That's cool. And Christa, whatever. Who cares?
Now, in her, not really her defense, but at least in her logic, I would assume that in her mind, she's thinking, okay, in those other situations, it's not life and death for her and her closest friends. Mm-hmm. It is life and death. They are other soldiers. But in this situation, like, there are literally 0 other options. They are all going to die here, or she does something. So
it tells us that she waited to the last possible moment.
She didn't want to show everybody
do anything,
but she did.
Yeah.
So this clearly puts Ymir in a weird. Well, okay. Well, I'll get to the end. We'll finish this last part. And I'll make this comment.
Reiner says she knew some of the secrets of our world, and I never suspected a thing.
And you remember their last episode, he had a weird kind of interaction with her where she was able to read some goofy language
that he didn't
off of
understand.
Canned goods that they were like just kind of stored back there. So they had that weird interaction. And actually, wasn't it the last episode as well where Reiner has the first time we see the flashback of him?
Yeah.
So both these episodes, he has this flashback again. Him and Bertolt both to when they were kids.
So this is at the point where, it's not looking so good for Ymir.
Yeah, she starts getting wrecked.
She's going hog wild at first,
like,
biting napes and scratching people, but there's just too many of them, and she's kind of small, even though she is athletic like a small monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that she's not doing so well is that she's trying to be careful of the tower
They
whole time.
realize she's trying, because she's like holding on to the tower, and she's starting to pull the bricks out, and then she lets go. And they realize she's trying to protect.
She's like holding back. Yeah,
she's trying to protect the tower, and then Christa kind of loses her crap at that point and starts yelling at her.
She's like, Ymir. She basically says, like, throws the same crap at her that Ymir was doing to her back, and is like, don't be so like, yeah, exactly, like fight, like don't worry about us, like I thought you were gonna fight like you mean it. Basically, is kind of what she says here.
Like, don't worry about this tower.
She said, let it fall,
tear it down,
tear it down,
which is great. Except for all of them are standing on the tower, and Connie's like, hey, before you just go ahead and give your friend
to do that,
cues to kill us.
And this is where she makes Christa also makes the observation. She goes, oh, she's risking her life. But but why? She could, and she's right. She could save herself. She could just run off right now, no problem. So one of the things she yells at her, she's like, "It's too late to get into heaven."
Yeah.
And so
don't try to do a last good deed at the end. Like, do what you got to do, but like, let's win.
Yeah. So she starts throwing the bricks from the tower and knocks the tower
rapidly,
over.
just
and does something extremely unusual because she pops up to the top of the tower where everybody's. Now the tower's falling. She pops up to the top and she goes,
and
"If want live, grab me."
She speaks.
She talks as a Titan. She speaks. Not very well. She's kind of cavemanish there.
She sounds like the Hulk.
Yeah.
Hulk smash.
But she can talk. And so far, we've only seen one other, what I can only assume is a Titan shifter, or at least an intelligent Titan, the Beast Titan, who speaks.
Connie's mom.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You know what? Connie's mom has a little bit of a...
So there's been 3 so far.
Welcome home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we assume Connie's mom.
2
anyway.
that were like labored. One was just like, oh yeah, I'm speaking full sentences without a hint
I
of
have
issue.
completely intelligible sentences and everything.
Yeah, it must be nice. This is freaking crazy news to us. Our minds are being blown right now.
So, tower goes down, and Ymir saves everyone. Good job. But that doesn't kill Titans, remember. They regenerate, and...
Freaking zombies.
There's 1 or 2 blissful seconds of silence and peace before everything goes completely horrible again.
And then Connie's like, "Go finish the job,
like,
ugly."
Hey, ugly.
Go finish your job. And she's like, and like hobbles off like a monkey zombie.
Oh, Connie. He's just all of us. You know, he says from the heart what we always want to say.
He says what I want to say. Mm-hmm. So she gets wrecked again. Basically, a bunch of these Titans pop out, including Mustache Titan, which let me tell you,
Tom Selleck Titan.
Yeah, the Tom Selleck one. If ever there was a dangerous,
he looked like Mo from the Three Stooges.
He did,
or Hitler more than Tom Selleck.
One of those two.
His mustache was not luxurious enough to be Tom Selleck.
I would love to like sit down with Isayama one day and be like, okay, let's review all these
Charlie
Titans.
Chaplin Titan.
Who are these based on? Because I think I know who some of these are based off of, but who exactly did you have in mind?
And
like, are they friends? Or are they like?
Was there some annoying guy at the office? You were like, I'm making you a freaking Titan that looks stupid right now.
Friggin' human eating zombie.
So I'm gonna refuse to say what I was about to say. Okay,
Christa kind of loses all sense of anything reasonable and starts walking towards the Titans that are ripping Ymir apart.
They're just eating
while
her.
she's crying, and she's like, "You're not allowed to die. I have to tell you my name.
Wait, I have to tell you my real name." And then another Titan pops up.
Freaky Titan pops up, and she's like, "Not yet." And then
Mikasa is awesome.
She orange slices that creepy Titan's face off. Well, the back of his neck. And then all the scouts fly in dramatically, and everyone's like, "Yeah!" Or maybe that was just
It's
me.
a pretty triumphant moment. When I watched this the first time, I was so like, oh, like I could breathe again when they like showed up, and there was a bunch of them, and like Mikasa's there, like everybody's there. I'm like, oh yes,
even
like,
Aaron. Aaron shows up and
kills
gets a kill on ODM gear. They're like, "Hey, freaking get back here, you idiot!"
He's like, "Oh, my first kill," and then immediately tangles up his ODM gear and falls down. And they're like, "Aaron, I told you not to do anything, you frigger."
Sorry, Mom.
So he runs into the gang and is like, "Hey guys," and the squad, Mikasa and the squad, basically they clean up.
Here.
No problem, which is
it's the wings of freedom, baby.
It's the wings of freedom happening.
So there's steaming Titan corpses everywhere.
And
as the sun rises, which is kind of poetic,
Steaming Titan corpses. Yeah.
It's my favorite metal band.
Anyway, I think it was kind of poetic that as the sun rises, this all happens because, like in the Snowy Mountain thing, when Ymir is making the promise, the sun is rising. It's like a nice full circle moment.
Mm-hmm. Even in the darkest night, it's darkest right before the dawn. Yeah. It's like even through the darkness of the night, if you hold hope. The scouts come at the dawn
and wreck all the Titans, and then we see Ymir missing a couple of limbs.
Part of her abdomen.
With her abdomen.
A lot of tourniquets have been applied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's just like
she's
sleeping,
just laying down there.
Smiling.
And then Christa tells us something that we can now call her for the rest of ever.
We've done such a good job of not
saying
spoiling
this name.
I don't think we've had any mishaps on
good job, guys.
Christa
I'm proud of
being
you.
Historia, actually. So she tells her, "Hey, my real name is Historia," and Ymir's like, "Okay."
She
and,
smiles and then passes out.
Yeah.
She's like trying to pull the samurai from the Last Samurai.
Yeah.
He's like, "I've just thought of the ending of my poem."
Yeah.
As if that's going to make a difference as you're dying. But all right, go ahead.
And then, the Aaron and Mikasa and Armin are like, she's a Titan? The end.
Yeah, they all find out Ymir's a Titan, which that'll ruin your day.
To be continued.
Dun,
well, at least Historia fulfilled
Hange's
her
yelling.
promise, which is to Ymir. Ymir said, like when I reveal my secret to everybody, like
take back your name.
Take back your real name and live.
Yeah.
And so you also remember that Historia, who we now know as Historia, but formerly Christa was the target. That's why Hange and all these people showed up. The scouts showed up at this tower in the first place, is they were going to use the tower as a vantage point to actually try and find the other scout groups, the unarmed scout groups that were out there for the 104th.
Christa.
To locate Christa, because Pastor Nick, okay, remember, Wall, and just I'm just trying to help you make the connections here. Pastor Nick, so he's not a pastor, dang it, heretic Nick, whatever the frick.
Heretic Nick.
Wall cult leader Nick, one of the Wall Order of the Walls, is the one who had weird information about the Titans being inside the walls, and then
he knew there was one.
They finally get him to crack, and he's the one who says, "Listen, there's one who basically can tell us, who can."
I'll only spill the beans to one person.
There's someone we've been monitoring, only whom can grasp things not even I can fully understand.
Yeah, she can understand. Well, they can understand things that even I can't understand, and so he sends them after Christa, and they're like, "Oh, her weird. Okay, well, we'll go find her." And remember, in Ymir's flashback, she was in a church of the Wall cult, of the Order of the Walls, where she heard about Christa's story.
Yep.
Okay, so this illegitimate child, the reason the people in the church, reason these, I was going to say parishioners, but that's not what they are, the church leaders.
Cultists.
Clergy, that's the word I'm looking for. The reason these cultists, like clergy, are talking about this situation at all years ago while... Ymir just happens to be listening in. The reason they're talking about it is because they're the ones that are going to take her in, essentially. They're the ones who are commissioned with watching.
Take care of her.
Take care. They're the ones who are commissioned with watching her. That's why they have this information in the first place, is they know that she's, royal or of elite, whatever, and they're the ones who are going to watch her this whole time. So I'm making that connection because that just flew right by me the first time I watched this through. It's not like the most important thing, but it's a good connection to be making. So, yeah, to be continued after that. We definitely have some spoilers to talk about.
Spoiler alert.
So I want to get to that. Thank you again for listening and watching. If you guys are enjoying the show, seriously, keep the emails coming. This has been really a great week. We just had some really encouraging emails, to be honest, that people have sent that I'm like, God bless you all. Beyond the Basement Podcast at gmail.com. You can feel free to send your own theories or ideas or so on and so forth. Of course, you can leave that's all the same kind of stuff in the YouTube comments section, youtube.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Don't forget to like the episodes and then subscribe, and that just helps them go a little further. And then you can watch them there. You don't have to just listen to all this. We are dressed in scout jackets and stuff right now. You would not know that unless you watched. And then finally, of course, you can find us on Facebook, where you can watch live on Sunday nights. So, we need to do a better job because we are kind of doing more than one a week these days, or generally we're trying to. We need to do a better job of updating everyone when we plan to do that, so they can tune in. So with that said, also don't forget to go leave a 5-star review on iTunes. That helps us out a ton.
Thanks so much.
There's been a bunch of people who've been like, hey, I was just on iTunes looking around and found your thing, and it's really great. So I would like other people to have that chance as well. And I would like you, if you are a first timer, to have the chance to not have this crap spoiled for you. So don't Google it. Don't do any of that. Just turn your phone off and listen to the next episode after you have watched up to that episode, because we're about to get into the spoilers. So I'm giving you T-minus 3 seconds, all right?
3.
3, 2, put your phone away. 1.5, 1.25, 1.125.
Oh my goodness.
What's half of 1.125?
I don't even care.
Okay, well, 1. All right, go. Okay, go. Spoilers! I like the Cheerios and Soggios. Okay. So, I just want to say all the things that are just true.
Say some truth, brother.
Hang on, I'm trying to find I want to do this somewhat chronologically.
Then just don't. Just do whatever you want to do. Okay.
Okay, so the flashback to the church. Let's just start there. So Ymir has her like, oh, I found out you were, illegitimate child, so on and so forth. I know this all gets revealed later, but like, seriously, why is Ymir? Why is she there? Is it really just dumb luck that the only other Titan shifter around who just happened to accidentally, it should literally just dumb luck that she got the power in the first place, right? She just was a dumb Titan, and she just lucked out that there was an expedition from Marley, gets her Titan powers, makes it inside the walls, and she's like a beggar.
So does she immediately run towards the walls? She probably has no bearing of where she is. Probably took her a while. So the expedition probably got to the walls before her.
Well, in the flashback, it shows Reiner and Bertolt running away from her.
Yeah.
So
maybe it took them a while
they run away.
I'm just trying to put two together. When did she cross over the walls?
She eventually probably turns it back into a person.
Oh, yeah.
And then is, dressed how? We don't know. Anyway, and she probably just follows their tracks, I would assume.
Well, how she makes it into the walls is not what I'm asking here. Because what I'm asking is...
When?
One of her... No, I do too, but I'm saying, like, what I do have evidence of, what I do know for sure, is that she doesn't end up inside the walls, and she ends up inside the church.
The interior
church.
She goes 3 rungs in the walls.
All the way to the interior. So, and listen, she's like a nomad and a beggar, like, okay, possible, sure. But ends up inside of the church, begging and stealing inside the church, and just happens to be there when they talk about, like, Christa. I just can't help but wonder, is, like, she drawn to the church here because she was an outcast from the kind of weird underground church?
That would be what I would surmise.
From before?
It makes sense that she would.
Is that why she ends up there? She's the only one who's been in both buildings,
Yeah.
To me, it makes sense that she would end up in a church because of her past. For sure. Because where else would she feel comfortable in a completely foreign place? Would be in a somewhat comfortable environment.
Yeah. And then fill me in here if I'm missing this gap, because the other one is, okay, so she joins the cadets. It's not clear to me how or why that happens either. Christa seems to be like, oh, you joined for like me, which, okay, yeah, maybe there's this weird lesbian romance thing kind of happening there, but that doesn't seem like that's really it. How did she just hears a rumor and decides, I'm going to go join the cadets and try and find this girl? She's
forced to join, she knows that this
Christa
child, Historia, is forced to join the cadets, so perhaps she thought, well, maybe if I can find her, I can leverage this somehow, in her opportunistic mind. I don't know. Plus, if she joins the military, she gets shelter and food and stability and clothes. And maybe she just kind of followed
a
her
long shot, but if you have nothing to lose.
Opportunistic ways led her there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I just am curious. I'm really curious because Ymir knows essentially more than anybody.
Yeah, and she doesn't tell anybody anything.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that all works out, and that she puts 2 and 2 together and figures out who she is and befriends her and latches onto her. And
that's she's like a detective at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I also think it's interesting how Isayama uses, like, how in court they say, "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?"
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they do this is because even if you swear to tell the truth, if you don't tell the whole truth, you could still be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
And even if you do tell the whole truth, but you add to it, it's also still a lie. Yeah, exactly. It's still deceitful.
Isayama, in the flashback with Reiner and Bertolt, tells us part of the truth. Doesn't tell us the whole truth. He doesn't tell us that right there is Ymir getting her Titan shifting powers for the first time.
We watched this and I was like, what? They revealed it this early? And I forgot. You guys had to rein me in and be like, no, we know that's Bertolt and Reiner now, but we don't know where they are, and we don't know that how you get Titan shifting powers by eating somebody who has it.
When I first saw that scene, I thought that they were having a flashback to the day the Titan walls were attacked and they were fleeing their village.
Yeah, sure.
And they got eaten by a Titan. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Now that we know, we're like, oh my gosh, he was showing us so much, but he was only showing us part of it, so it couldn't be a spoiler yet.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is, he selectively edits out the frame of Annie.
Annie's not there.
Annie's nowhere to be seen.
But
she was there on that day. We know that.
Uh-huh.
She's sleeping somewhere else, so he just happens to zoom in a little bit to not show us the entire truth.
Right.
As to keep some of the lie hidden.
And so, okay, so then we can... All right, let's talk about this for a second, too, because Reiner goes like, oh my gosh, like, so he says this part out loud, which just makes me like kind of wonder, but he says, well, hang on, where's the line?
He says, she knew some of our secrets of our world, and I never suspected a thing.
He sounds so betrayed and angry right there, but that is not, like, if you think he's not a Titan shifter, but now that I'm listening to it, he's not betrayed. He's like, I'm a fool. Why didn't I know? So I'm a spy, and I didn't catch a spy.
Yeah,
that's why I think he didn't know the language, because he was like, I should have suspected like something that was weird with you. Like, because remember at the end of the last episode, we're kind of in this debate over, he goes, you're, and then they get interrupted, which is still not super clear.
Yeah.
But here, yeah, he's like, he says, she knew some of the secrets of our world, and you mentioned this, it's like a double entendre, like, our world could literally mean the world that the
Marlians.
Paradise.
Oh, sorry, the Eldians.
Yeah,
Paradise.
and also the world of Marlians, because that's probably where she's from. Like, that's literally where she's from. So
this is one of several times that Reiner and his crew are speaking code in plain. They're hidden. It's been hidden in plain sight.
Yeah. And
Bertolt even says some pretty interesting things too. And like, you see his face; he's pretty freaked out.
What is her goal?
What is her goal?
Was her goal to come here and to find us? Was her goal to come here and to destroy humanity? What was her goal?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good question to ask, and it's interesting. But like, I think we, the audience, know the answer to it, which is, listen, not everybody's sent on a mission, a military mission from another society. Like, she's literally just a poor kid who ended up as a dumb Titan for 70 years, who got lucky enough to get the right kill, to eat the right human being. She's literally just like...
Think of all the other people out there who are Titans.
She was just waiting in the ground.
Who could have become Titan
been any
shifters,
of them.
and it could have been someone way more like important or goal-driven, or somebody who wants to reunite with their family, and it just happens to be this girl, Ymir.
Yeah. And so what's her goal? Well, her goal, she lives for herself now. Her goal is...
whatever she wants to be.
She just doesn't want to be oppressed
like
she was before.
She wants to live the life she's proud of.
Yeah.
That's her goal.
There you go. And
she doesn't have one like they do.
I think she wants to be a YouTuber when she grows up. I think that's her goal.
She wants to be an influencer.
Well,
she's definitely trying to influence Christa and Sasha in her aggressive, overbearing way.
She's influential. Titan size.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's a shifter, but she ain't big.
So here's what we pointed out that brought Eric confusion, was the fact that as she's eating Bertolt, older brother, on this mission, she looks almost exactly the same as she does when she's a dumb Titan and a Titan shifter.
And
the difference is her teeth change, her hands and feet get claws.
Hair's a little bit longer.
She is more like muscular.
Pretty much the same.
And
yeah, it's just really close. When Armin was a dumb Titan,
he
looks completely different when he turns into the Colossal Titan, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody we've seen as a dumb Titan, they don't look the same as when they're a Titan shifter, except for Ymir. What are the odds she just happens to get the Titan shifter that looks just like her, just like Isayama can hide that fact from you for a few episodes? It's really interesting.
Does that have something to do with the age at which you become a Titan?
How long you've been a dumb Titan?
Because I'm wondering that, like, if you become a Titan shifter when you're young, does that mean you have more power?
Well, I don't think so, because we see a lot of Titans that look and act like children, as if when they were, as if to say that when they were stabbed.
Shifters specifically.
Oh, Titan shifters. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like does that have something to do with it?
We know the Titan shifter ability has this interconnection to all the memories, and we know that when you're lost, you got to let the memories and the powers guide you, right? Mm-hmm. And so, is it kind of like the symbiote? Like, does it take a little bit of each person, kind of like Venom? Like, it takes a little bit of each person, and kind of like as you take it, it kind of combines, and you kind of become what.
I feel like it's simpler than that. I just think it's like, okay, each Titan power has a name.
Yeah.
Aaron's Titan is the attack Titan, and that Titan power has attributes to it. Now, they're all connected. It just
happens to be extremely small and muscular, just like her dumb Titan is.
No, I'm saying, so in Ymir's case, actually, I mean, maybe that's...
Because look at the Season 4 trailer.
Well, no, here's what I'm saying. So, some of the attributes of, Ymir's Titan, the animal Titan, or whatever, Jaw Titan, whatever you call it.
Jaw Titan, yeah.
So, some of Ymir's attributes come from the fact that she has the Jaw Titan power. But in terms of, like, what she looks like, that's coming from, like, within, right? And so...
So if she would have eaten Reiner, she would look exactly the same, but just have more like armor.
No, I'm saying she would look closer to the way Reiner's like. She would look sort of like she does, like as a human, right? It's very vague, right? It's very it's similar but not similar. She would look vaguely like she does as a person. So her human DNA is mixed in there. And then the Titan shifting power, just the fact that like she's going to be enhanced, period, and then which power she has. I think those three things, like basically that's what creates like the look and size and like all those things of the Titan, like whoever it is. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because this is all conjecture. The season 4 trailer, our assumption is that because I show it in the trailers that one of the that Ymir's Titan power is she's killed and passed on to some other soldier, which would make perfect sense. I don't know why they would keep her. There's no reason to. And if that's the case, then whoever else has that other Titan has like very different features.
It's much larger.
I don't even know how much
maybe
bigger.
Maybe not much larger, but at least a little bit larger.
We can't compare because we don't have them apples to apples, but
right.
It looks we
similar.
can tell it's clear. It's the Jaw Titan.
And the type of powers it expresses, but it's clearly drawing from somebody else's DNA, not from Ymir's at all. What I'm saying is I don't think it holds on to a piece of like the previous owners of the Titan power.
The Jaw Titan happens to be small, monkey-like, hunched over, and feral. But that's exactly what Ymir's Titan looked like before when she was a dumb Titan. I'm just saying it's just like this is interesting to me.
It is very strange how little change seemed to have happened.
And everybody else's change is completely massive. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we'll have to see more in season 4.
She's also one of the ones that has like the flesh still. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll get into this.
She doesn't look all muscly and
and
she
can
has
talk.
Skin like Aaron has skin.
She can talk. I forgot about
that. How long
that.
did it take her to learn how to talk?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it because she was a dumb Titan for so long, or just because? Yeah. So many questions.
How many times has she even transformed? Is one of my questions.
Do you guys want to take a plane ride to Japan?
I mean,
we're not going to store
with some.
Need to get a passport.
Dude, I would do anything to get. Listen, if you're a fan of the show and the show's still going and you're listening to this right now or something, like I would do anything to just get a sit down with somebody who's kind of behind the scenes on the show or the manga or whatever, like co-creators or producers or just somebody who's on the inside of this thing, and just give us a half an hour with somebody so we can do a quick interview and ask some important questions. That'd be freaking awesome.
That's a better way of doing it than torturing somebody. But yeah, okay. Yeah.
I would say so.
We have some snacks.
My last spoiler actually also comes from Nathaniel's email that we mentioned earlier. It just belongs in the spoiler section. So Ymir knows that Titans are people. Soylent Green is people. When she just does the distraction thing from Connie, because Connie's like, oh, my mom, whatever. Nathaniel's point was that maybe that was actually her being compassionate as well.
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, the more I'm like...
I thought
so
too.
immediately. It's just her doing it in a terrible way.
She's being an
a jerk about it, but...
It's like, okay.
But why?
She's trying to make it. She's provoking him to anger to make him stop thinking about it.
If there's a car coming and I like push you out of the way, that's like save your life. If there's a car coming and like punch you in the face and you get out of the way,
you in the stomach.
Okay, but you didn't have to punch me in the face. You could have just pushed me. Like you could have just been nice about it. That's the best way to do it.
But like,
it's doing good.
Ymir, Pastor Nick, like you guys could help humanity, but you're not. You literally could just tell Hange. Like you don't tell everybody. Why don't you just tell Hange? Like she'll keep a good secret. She'll make good use of the information and figure. Like I don't know. Just unhappy with them.
It's tough. Hey, thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, thank
Drop
you.
us a like.
Appreciate it.
It really helps. And obviously the algorithms are working or getting up there in the iTunes, so please keep leaving us your 5-star reviews if you'd please and you don't mind.
Yeah.
Let Historia be herself tonight.
Yeah, let Historia live. All right, guys. Find us on YouTube. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy to email us, beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com if you've got questions and so on and so forth. Merch coming soon. Not this cool of merch. This merch is... Where'd you get the Amazon?
The Amazon.
Well, we'll put some links to some of the stuff we've got. But anyway, it's time to clink the glasses, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.